Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to you, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another Zoom meeting and podcast of Here's Tom with the Weather, where we investigate the plethora of higher powers that populate the vast universe of recovery, particularly where the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous encourage us to find some kind of higher power, as long as it's not us. For example, in the third step of the Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program, where it states, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And also to the 11th step, where it states, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. We speak to people with all manner of higher powers, from those who are atheists, sufis, agnostics, Christians, Buddhists, followers of Islam, Hermetics, Paganists, and those into something called non-duality. We leave no stone unturned. It's our aim to promote understanding and open-mindedness so that alcoholics and addicts can find a higher power of their own, stay sober, and carry the message. We promote tolerance and empathy for folks who might have different spiritual practices than us. It's all about live and let live. And please remember that this is not an AA meeting or an NA meeting. It's just some people's version of the truth, whatever that may be. Sometimes we speak to seekers, to gurus, and to people not necessarily in recovery. But today we are talking to somebody in recovery. And it's my honor to introduce you to Paul Hedderman. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Good. So I'm just going to read a bit of a bio about Paul, and we've just got a little bit of a special treat. So this is a quote that I've read about, or that I've got about Paul, and he is described as being a man of no pretense, and I can say that that's certainly true. Paul Hedderman's enlivening teachings blend his experience in recovery, which has been since 1988, with the perennial wisdom of Buddhist and Vedic philosophy, peppered with gems from A Course in Miracles. Paul is the author of many books, including those with titles such as The Escape to Everywhere and Under Arrest. And as I say, there's many other titles. And I've also found this quote about Paul. Paul invites us to notice how the mind's irritability, restlessness, and discomfort arise from the false notion of what's not happening, a notion that creates the sense of false self. His clear pointers are a simple and profound invitation that, once considered, can instantly break this addiction and enable one to travel lighter through life. And also I found out recently that one of Paul's favorite philosophers includes Zen master Huang Po, who he describes as being somebody who's important, that he's done his reading. So we've strung together a few Huang Po quotes to get us started. And just a little bit about Huang Po is that his teachings were centered on the concept of mind. He taught that mind cannot be sought by mind. And one of his most important sayings was that mind is the Buddha. All the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and other sentient beings. He also said,
suppose a warrior, forgetting that he was already wearing his pearl on his forehead, were to seek for it elsewhere. He could travel the whole world without finding it.
Learn only how to avoid seeking for attaching yourselves to anything.
Words used to attract the dull of wit are not to be relied upon.
Presupposing the existence of a non-existent entity and then working to get salvation for that imaginary I, you have to start and try to do so through various paths of yoga, redemption, or self-improvement. When your modes of redemption themselves become a means of giving life to the non-existent ego, how can they destroy it? To do any yoga except self-inquiry is to be just like a thief turning himself into a policeman to catch the thief who is none but himself.
So, Paul, there's your intro, and it's really good to see you. Thanks for coming along. So first of all, I wanted to just sort of just do a bit of a history tour of Paul Hedderman. Can you just tell us a little bit about your stuff before you got into recovery and where you were at in terms of maybe your childhood, and have you always been into spirituality? Have you always been a seeker? Was that important before you got into recovery?
Well, where I was before I got recovered was in institutions and jails.
Okay, and what about before then? Before, I believe you're from the eastern part of the United States. Can you tell us a bit about your childhood? Was there any particular instances that led you on this path?
Well, let's just pre-frame it as the story of an action figure. Yes? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I was born in Amityville, Long Island, where they had the Amity Horror.
Oh, yeah.
My mother experienced that way before the movie came out. And we moved closer to the city, called a little town called Rockville Center, Long Island. And just grew up. 5 or 6 years old, the mental state seemed to develop quickly, and I started to not look out, but look in, so to speak. I was listening to shit about me, then playing after a while. Yes, so this self-centeredness and the absorption in that was way beyond my pay scale. I didn't know what to do, so I was seeking relief. I went about doing that in a lot of ways: sports, going in the ocean, reading fantasy, reading a lot of Edgar Allan Poe, science fiction, trying to basically escape out of what I thought I was in. And that led me to starting to drink alcohol at a young age, that quickly developed into drug use, a lot of hallucinogens and hash and stuff at first, and then moved into narcotics. And that wanting to get out of myself became the occupation I lived in, really. I just basically everything I sort of did was with the idea of getting out of me. So the drugs were a very quick way to do it. And yeah, that set off, sort of tattooed my lifestyle. And then I got the consequences of an alcoholic of my type, which is I'm willing to pay any consequence tomorrow, not to feel uncomfortable now. And I started to run into a lot of consequences. I realized I put off like a magnetic appeal to people in uniform when I was under. So I got arrested quite a lot in very, very unusual circumstances. And yeah, that went on until that brought me to institutions and hospitals and jails. And they were starting to become the norm. It seemed to be I was in a program more than I was out of a program. And then I basically gave up all hope. I had been introduced to spirituality when I was about 20. I had been in a pre-probation program from 17 to 20. I was still getting loaded, but I started to feel like it was going to be an inside job. So I got introduced to a group, and their backbone of the group was meditation. They had this thing called knowledge, they called it. And I followed that for about 5 years. At that point, wanting to know God was sufficient enough to keep me sober. That failed not that far later, but at that point, wanting to know God was a strong enough drive that I didn't drink much, or I didn't do any drugs for a few years. 25, I went back out with a vengeance, and I basically ended up washing up on the shores of recovery, when I was 36 years old, after being run over by cars and a lot of other things. So yeah, I came in, I got struck sober, and then I came in. I didn't get sober through the program. I got struck sober, and then I was introduced to the program so I could stay struck sober, basically. And then that led me to inquiring about other things, Buddhism and stuff, and I got involved in that, and it led me to more ideas. And all the information that I was gathering was brought back to the way of life called recovery, and I could start seeing the problem in a much different light, until a point where I recognized I'm not the problem. It's a foreign activity, or you want to call it like a parasite or whatever. It's just an image of not being me. And then from that point, that led to running into non-duality and the Course in Miracles and stuff. And basically that recognition of that activity as not me, not being done by me, not reporting about me, has nothing to do with me, became, I was convinced of that, and it's just been so ever since. So, yeah.
You just going back to when you were introduced originally with the first time you got sober, and you said about the meditation classes, was that any particular religious philosophy or any sort of thing, or was it just like mindfulness?
No, there was a guru. He was a young kid, and he's actually came from a family of gurus. They had like a franchise, I guess, in India, moving the franchise to America. And the meditation was very cool. They had techniques, and I had a lot of experiences with it. And it also brought me a sense of community and a lot of other, fringe benefits that I wasn't giving all credit to the guru to. It was basically, I was living in a community. I liked that. I had a sense of belonging. I needed that. I had a purpose. I needed that as an action figure. So it really fulfilled a lot of qualities. But I got disappointed in the whole guru, Lord of the Universe thing. And
why is that?
Because it seemed like I didn't like the Lord of the Universe. So that was, my head was having a field day on that. Who wouldn't like the Lord of the Universe, But, well, whatever. Yeah. I got weaned off of that dynamic of the eternal, all-powerful teacher and the humble, inept, inadequate student. I don't believe in that dynamic.
So it was that sort of traditional sense of the old man on a chair in heaven sort of thing. It was based on that sort of premise, and we being the mere mortals underneath. Was the sort of...
He was a young kid. He was 12 years old when I met him. So,
yeah.
So he could have been in a little baby chair, really. No, it's a chair. No. So whatever. Everything proves valuable, put in the right hands. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm interested in seeing that progression from that to when you got sober and your ongoing, and when you had your, through your research and stuff. So we've used that term before. I think we've used it, both of us, that term drunk Buddhist. Would you describe yourself as being a drunk Buddhist? Was spirituality a focus of your life then, or was it just incidental to what you were doing?
No. When I was using? No.
Yeah.
No, it was an either or thing. I wasn't getting loaded and doing spirituality. No. I was a great example of an extremist. I did one thing to the expense of every other thing. Yeah. So, no, I wasn't. I talk about drunken Buddhists later, not when I came in. I was severely damaged character in all aspects. Recovery was the way I was brought back to a state of being able to live life on life's terms and many, many other things. And then when I started to get sober, I remember seemingly the best time of my life was when I was doing that meditation and doing stuff like that. So I tried to go back to it. And then it developed to where it went. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you come from a religious background? I don't mean to pry too much into that, but were your parents religious? No?
No, we were Catholics, but not too religiously.
Okay. And I'm interested again when you talk about the word struck sober. That's something I've heard you use a couple of times, and there'll be people in here who aren't aware of that story, and I think it's a good one. So would you mind telling us about the time that you got struck sober? This is after, I think you got hit by a car on the same night, but then you got struck sober in a trailer park or trailer van, I think you said.
It wasn't the same night. I got hit. I got run over by a car in 1980. I got struck sober in 1988, so there was a long gap between the two. But basically, I would say I had given up all hope. I had been in a live-in programs from 1985 to 87. They had told me that period of being insane, though rather long, was over. I was going to have a whole new life, sort of like Mr. Hyde was going to be gone and Dr. Jekyll was going to carry on. I hope they were right, but I had strong suspicions around that. When I graduated with flying colors, they didn't really have a bridge to a way of life. As long as when you left the place, their whole idea of success, which they used to put brochures out, this program, they said they had like 98-something% success, but the fine print you had to read, which is you could never leave the program. You'd have to be living in the program the rest of your life. Right. And that didn't seem that attractive to me. So I left, and they basically froze people out who leave. So I was left to my own devices when I left, and I was easy prey to the parasite. Yeah.
So you were in was it a cult? Would you describe it as a?
I was relying on the mind, and that's where the parasite resides. So it started to inform me its old view of what life was like, what it's going to be like, and what it's like now. And I renewed my subscription to that, and I followed it, and it led me to getting loaded again. And I washed up 10 months after I graduated from Delancey Street. I went out on a St. Patrick's Day. I went out on the day before St. Patrick's, the day before. Just a road sign, but it wasn't like a new thing. I went out, and I came to on the 18th of March. I lost the car. The 19th, I don't know what happened. I must have been transported a couple hours north of San Francisco. The 20th, I had drank myself dumb. I don't know if you've ever been in that state. I couldn't even on a sitcom, I couldn't put two sentences together. And then March 21st, I came to, I was a frequent visitor of blackouts. So I came to sort of like, I like the blackouts are like parachuting into no man's land behind enemy lines. Yeah. You're thinking everyone must know you haven't been here, but you've been there. You just don't remember it. So I just dropped into a situation, came to, I was looking across a table to a guy with a big freaking head and bulbous nose and varicose veins all over his face. I was in a very compressed room. It was a trailer, a small trailer next to this hang gliding park, and drinking a bottle of Royal Gate vodka. And then I looked at him, and I said to myself, this guy's a fucking bum. And then he was looking at me like I was a bum. And then something happened, like, the Red Sea parted. Mm-hmm. Something occurred seemingly behind me, because I had the image of what was going on in front of me, but the whole stage had dropped into the void behind me, so to speak. So I had it was like a CNN news flash, just a headline. And the headline was, I'm fucked, which was the fact, but I was in denial of that fact. Yeah. But it didn't go to my head, it bypassed it. I went to what we say in recovery, the innermost, let's call it. And the next little statement that was underneath it was, and not managerial quality. And so I was like thunderstruck, completely convinced of those things. Now, I didn't know that only through hindsight, but I was convinced. And if I was new in recovery, that's what I would pray for. Pray for the ability to be convinced, because the facts are in. You're fucked, basically, but you're not seeing it, maybe. So that happened, and that set off a train of circumstances that through no effort of my own, I ended up at a meeting of recovery that night. A woman tried to saved me. She dropped me off at a men's meeting, and surprise, surprise, she actually came back and picked me up at 9. And I've been sober ever since. Never had a strong feeling or a thought about drinking or using, and thoroughly convinced where the shit I'm convinced of doesn't come up for debate or review or speculation. It's just a fact in my life, just as having alcoholism was a fact in my life. But I'm in alignment with these facts now when I was in opposition to those facts, because the parasite was basically living as me. Yeah, I was used for transportation, basically.
And so I guess in the big book, it describes Bill W. when he had that, I think it was a flashing light, and he was in bed and he had some sort of awakening. So you had a kind of an incremental build up to it, and then you had some sort of, I guess the cliche, the moment of clarity. Would that be right in saying that?
Well, the thing is, the moment of clarity, the only way it's going to stay clear is a way of life. People have tons of moments of clarity, but they get overridden quickly and forgotten. It was not just a moment of clarity. It led me to being introduced to a way of life that was going to extend that moment of clarity into 32 years of clarity concerning the exact nature of the fucking wrong. That's not a moment of clarity. Yeah. That's a clarity that's in every moment after a while. It's not a moment of clarity. A moment of clarity can become a basis when it's matched with a way of life. That's what was needed. And as real addicts and real alcoholics, the action figure needs a way of life, a design for living. It isn't about collecting moments of clarity. The clarity informs you of something that hopefully leads to and turns into a way of life based on principles, not on thoughts. Based on principles, not on thoughts and feelings. Yeah? Okay.
So now I've heard you a couple of times. We've sort of know each other really like this for about 10 or 11 months now, and it's been a ride. I've heard you describe the big book as a download. Can you just clarify that? Can you tell me what you mean by that?
The big book is a download. That's what I mean by it.
Okay. A download from what?
That it comes from the direction of the higher power, so to speak. Read the 12 and 12. It's completely different than the big book.
Yeah, I've heard you say you're not a fan of the 12b12. Is that, would I be right in saying that?
I don't mind there's a quality of someone reflecting on a download, but it's quite different than a download to me. The big book was a download of epic proportions. It's changed the lives of so fucking many people. Yeah. Okay. The 12 and 12 is one member's reflection on like 12 or 15 years of sobriety. Yeah. Okay. It has a different flavor. It's much more ploddingly functional, where the big book has like captured like lightning and thunderbolts. Yeah. In my view. Okay. Yeah.
But would you agree with me that some of the terminology in the big book is outdated of its time? Do you think does it have relevance? I know there's some core of it that's relevant.
To them, it's outdated to us now. It wasn't outdated to them. Yeah, but it's the spirit. It's a living book. It's not captured and contained by the words.
But do you think that when they have words like to wives and to employers, do you think that they have chapters called to wives and to employers, and some of the terminology is very...
It was a completely new idea, and they were attempting to try to cover every possible base that somebody could use as a reason why not to listen to anything. Okay. I mean, really, if you look at it, it's an exercise of bending over backwards to try to explain to, let's say, we agnostics and everyone else, to give this a chance, because in a weird way, the ends justified the means, yeah?
Okay.
Let's make it a big, big opening to get people in and then see what happens when they're in. Yeah.
Okay.
My feeling.
So we've had a couple of questions already in the chat, and I'm just inviting anyone, if you've got a question, put it in chat and redirect it to myself, Anne, Kaiser, or Michael, or Joe, or Lebowski, and we'll get it sent. We'll ask it for Paul. So the big question is, Paul, and I know you asked this the other day, and I'm going to sort of see if you can. I asked it to you when we had our phone call. Who or what is God, in your opinion? What is it? What's it all about? Is there a divine intelligence that guides us and that is part of our consciousness? I guess that's the big question, isn't it?
Or there isn't. It matters if there is for you. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it matters. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have the intimacy of a feeling that can be described as a divine intelligence directing you. There you go. Yeah. But it's this feeling or the sense of being directed that leads to trying to sort of categorize it by a statement. Yeah. You don't want to have the statement without the sense of being directed. It doesn't, it's dry. It turns into fundamentalism.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to Wang Po. I hope I pronounced that right. Huang Po. Wang Po. What was it?
Yes, I'm a close friend.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was going to say something now. I'm not going to say it. So what was it about Wang Po that appealed to you? And I'm leading on to a description of something called non-duality. And we've had a couple of people on here that speak about it, and it's still a mystery to a lot of people. Can you what was it about Wang Po that appealed to you?
Directness.
Okay. In what sense? Directness of what? What was the message?
The directness of the message. How can you not see the directness of whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving? You can't be more direct than that. I mean, that just knocks down thousands of fucking trees. Yeah. Whatever can be perceived, yeah, cannot be perceived. Listen to your head right now. It's based totally on the opposite premise. That's pretty direct. That's a pretty direct invitation to see what's going on.
You described the sorry, go on.
Saying that whatever can be perceived, which is a body, yes, one of things, whatever can be perceived, a body, thoughts, whatever, yeah, cannot be that which is perceiving. Now listen to the head inside it, listen to the narrative. It's talking as if you're the perceiver, as the body. He's just disputing that. That's pretty direct. Yeah.
So questioning everything.
Well, don't question everything, just question that at the moment. Yeah, you'll get to everything later. Just go there.
I wanted to just go back on you use that word, and I've heard you use it. I love the analogy about the parasite. And I think that appeals to whatever direction you're on, spiritually or not. The parasite's an interesting way of how did you come up with that? And where does that come from?
I came up with that. I was driving up to do a share at a meeting of AA in Petaluma, California, a noonday meeting. And I was at the meeting, and my experience when sharing is that I'm not doing it, something is doing it through me. And that something is trying to communicate. And so it finds ways of doing that. And at that moment, it found a way of producing an image of otherness concerning the disease by using the term parasite. So that you can speak, because to me, the root of the disease of alcoholism is rooted in the addiction to self. which is the prior disease. Yeah. And the addiction to self is an act of being identified as self. Yes?
Yes.
So how could you, if you're identified as that which you want to escape from, the only way you're going to try to escape from it as that which you identified as, which is captured by the statement, self can't get out of self.
Mm-hmm.
So the importance of the word parasite is very, very meager. The importance to see of the otherness of what you're listening to is very, very important.
And that goes back to that quote that we said originally, I think Wang Po said about using the Buddha to get out of the Buddha, or the mind to get out of the mind. It's directly correlates to that.
Yes, and it correlates to the statement, self can't get out of self. You're using self to get out of self. How's it work?
So this is interesting. So it's a parasite implies a foreign body, an invasive foreign body that's like a wasp. You know, the parasites the wasp injects into the spider, and you know, like an alien or whatever. But it implies that this is a foreign body. Is that foreign body just a mistake of evolution?
Parasite. It isn't a body. You can't see it in an X-ray, but you can't see alcoholism in an X-ray because it's a problem. It resides in the mind, which the mind is not of things.
Okay. All right. So again, I'm just asking. I've got a few questions coming up here. So
parasite, just like I said, I'm not interested in the word. I'm interested in provoking an imagery of otherness. That's the intent. I don't care about the word. I care about you and I seeing something we're taking to be us as other. So maybe we'll realize it's not us, and we won't be living as it or from it. Yeah. Or
okay.
While we're living from it, we won't be living as it. Let's put it that way. It's pretty good.
Okay. So we're into the sort of half an hour to go. So we've got a few questions from our audience here. This is from Jill, who's a regular here. Jill asks, you mentioned you found your sense of purpose while in your early community period. Could you describe your purpose and if that has changed?
Well, I call it a seed assignment. So one way the seed assignment is to share a message. Yeah. The message is that you're listening to a previous message, really. A message itself. But yeah, so I feel like I fulfill that purpose for sure.
Okay.
I have purposes, you know, with my relationship and the dog and the cat and other things, and the hummingbirds and everything else. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of action figures do well without a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you don't have one, make one up in a way, you know.
And that leads me on.
Look at an electric car.
Yeah. Well, that leads me on to a question we've had from somebody who's anonymous, which is a good job. For alcoholics and addicts, does spirituality relieve our addiction, or must we always do the 12 steps?
Well, hopefully you're not going to always do the 12 steps. They're going to become ingrained. There won't be a doing of them. There'll be a living from them, you know, so to speak. Yes? And the basis, the steps, without the spiritual, without that aspect, they're just self-help things. Yeah? So, no, the spirituality, in a sense, it matters what you mean by spirituality. The power of the grace is what infuses the steps. The steps don't produce the grace.
Okay. And that follows on from...
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
In my view, I don't see it that way. I see that the power that we're accessing it, or we're allowing it to access into our lives through the program of recovery. But it's not the program of recovery that's producing the access. The grace is using the program of recovery to download. Yeah, it could use other things.
Well, there's a couple more questions here as well, but which is interesting. Kaiser sent this on from somebody.
Sorry, David. The idea of spirituality, I'm not a believer in what a lot of people think of spirituality.
Okay.
Spirituality is like a mental activity. I think spirit is our inherent condition. I don't believe spirituality is anywhere close to representing spirit in a lot of cases, to tell you the truth.
Okay, because you've said that before. It's like it's described, I think, in the book, it's a spiritual malady, but I think you describe it as a mental malady. Is that right?
It's not a spiritual malady. I don't see spirit as having any malady. That's not my sense. Yeah.
So we're the malady. The action figure is the malady.
No, the action figure is an expression of the malady. The malady is of the mind, the mental states. It's not, it may show its effects on the physical states, but it's not being produced by the physical states.
Okay. This is a question again from Anonymous. Good on you, Anonymous. Can you give us a brief rundown? I know we're just sort of going back a bit. Can you give us how your understanding of a higher power has changed through your recovery, and how did you keep doing the steps as this understanding changed, if it changed?
Yes, all right. So in the beginning, when you come in, because of our condition, they presented a great way to, even in our condition, to enter the program, which is make up a higher power of your own understanding, because you're fucking doing everything else on your own fucking understanding. Do that. Yeah, all right. But that's for only the beginning. If you read out of the book, it says, obviously going forward, it's going to change. But some people get stuck in it for 30 years. So my feeling is, all right, so you start there with a higher power of your own understanding. If you stay in the program, it's going to lead to a higher power of its own understanding. Yeah? In other words, you're going to be at the effect of the higher power, not causing the higher power. It's going to be revelatory, and you're going to find out the width and the breadth of the higher power. And you'll see how meager and myopic your understanding what it would be like. To try to have all of that come through a very small window is insane. So it led to me, I have a higher power of its own understanding. It informs me of what it is. I don't tell it what it is. Yeah.
It's that laugh.
That goes on, because the way I read this part of the book, I don't remember it now, it basically says, yes, have a higher power of your own understanding, but obviously going forward, it's going to transform because you're going to be under its effects. You're going to have a sense of it. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
If you've never met someone, you can have a complete understanding of them on your own understanding. But after you meet them, I hope there's some room to move where you start having an understanding from their understanding of themselves. Yeah? I mean, seriously.
Okay. I just want a little footnote on that. And it's just something you said before when you were growing up, that you were into fantasy and sci-fi, which is something that I was as a kid. Is that sort of thing, does that help with open-mindedness when you were growing up? Do you think, to be open-minded to the possibilities of this? Was that any help, do you think, in terms of growing up?
Oh, I think so, because at least you were looking up through a skylight, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. That's good.
Like Edgar Allan Poe, I like where his mind went. Yeah. So it gave me a possibility that I wasn't being informed of much in my daily life. So, yes.
Okay.
They don't like where they went, but the length of how they got there was pretty cool. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I can certainly relate to that. And this is Angel just asked this earlier on, and this is a fun question. Do you teach yoga? She's tried to look you up, and she seems to think that you might be teaching yoga somewhere.
Well, yoga is union, so yeah, we're sort of teaching that.
Okay. Well, just on that point, if you go to Paul's website,
only posture that I'm a master of is the dead man's pose. Posture yoga teacher, the dead man's pose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So David Roberts asked a question. He's a big Ramana man, a Ramana Maharshi man, actually. I know David quite well. He says, thanks for being here, Paul. What do you think we actually recover in recovery? Is it like we've lost something and then found it again? A kind of recognition?
Well, if you can find something, obviously you didn't lose it.
Okay.
Way, yeah. So that's I'd have to go in that. You should come to the other meeting.
Yes.
You have to go in that for a while to recover. Yes, yeah.
So just on that point, if you go to zenbitchslap.com, that's Paul's website. He holds two, I guess we could call them satsangs, on a Wednesday every week and on a Saturday every week. The details are at his website. Go along. I've been several times. It's really interesting. So, and also as well as the 12-step reflections that we do on a Tuesday and a Thursday every week as well. So if you want to get the details for that, I think one of the guys will put it in the chat for us. And again, Angel asks, and just again, this is a bit of a big question, but for people who have not read your books or been there, could you just describe your concept of spirituality in 20 words or less?
I'm not a believer in spirituality.
Okay. So are you an atheist? Are you an agnostic?
No. I'm not any of that. I just don't believe in spirituality as it's been defined in contemporary life.
Okay.
I don't see, if our nature is of spirit, how much more spiritual can you be? Why would you need to amplify it through a mimicry called spirituality? When a lot of the times, as someone shared with the statement from Ramana, your own spiritual practices themselves are reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? I would say a lot of spirituality now is in that dilemma. They're actually reinforcing that which they're proposed to destroy. What's the fucking point? I think a lot of spirituality is a platform for people to feel connection and to feel a purpose. That's great, yeah? Mm-hmm. But I'm not a believer. I don't think spirit's going to become more spiritual. I don't. I don't. So maybe you can, I would see, the whole idea with our message is to see what you're not from what you are, because we humbly believe a lot of us start from, we're looking for what we are from what we're not. We just want to have a correction there. And then if you want to call a life after that a spiritual life, go right ahead. I would just call it living. Yeah. I wouldn't define it as, oh, this is a special way of living called spiritual. I don't see it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's very just pragmatic. Is your launching pad based on false assumptions or not? Yeah. It's sort of like, are you buying a lot of maps to get to LA based on an assumption you're in Omaha while you're in LA? Could be the case. Yeah. Then what would those maps be doing? They'd be reinforcing the assumption you're in Omaha, not liberating you to the fact that you're in LA. They would actually be reinforcing the bullshit that you're in Omaha. Yeah? So maybe you can be super spiritual in Omaha, but you're in fact, you're in LA.
Okay. We had a guy called David Godman on last week.
The movement of the mental state is very fast. Whatever we as spirit, as being conscious, bring it into contact with, it claims it to use it for its narrative. Yeah? Is there spirituality without someone being spiritual?
No.
There you go. So this is what we're questioning. The someone. We're not questioning spirituality or not. Is there a someone that isn't spiritual and is going to become spiritual? Is there? I'm not a believer in that. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just I wanted to just move quite along here. How long are you good for? Are you going to stay for a while, or are you going to be Cinderella and you're going to get off at 12 o'clock? You okay?
Well, I would have been off already. It's 12:40.
Get the glass slipper ready. We had a guy called David Godwin.
I'm not going anywhere. I have, I'm watching the dog and the cat and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard about that cat. We had David Godwin on last week, and he was saying there's a guy called Papaji who's is quite a well-known non-duality guy, and he wouldn't ever do a satsang if there was money to be claimed. So he would never go and leave a pot outside the door. And I guess that's leading on to the whole thing about there's a lot of spirituality, inverted commas, and I have no opinion on that, where they leave money. What's your opinion on that thing about asking money for wisdom and spirituality? Do you have any feelings on that? Any thoughts?
I don't see any. See, the point is, people have to live. Yeah, we're not in India where people have a lot of people support people in these kind of spiritual endeavors. We're in the West. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The thing is, try to be a spiritual teacher coming out of recovery. When you pass the donations, you get $1. You have 80 people and you make $56. Yeah. And you're renting the hall and you're doing this and you're doing that. So, but I don't have a big thing about it. Maybe because I make money this way sometimes. But no, I don't see it as... whatever. People make it what it is.
You're a builder, aren't you, by trade? You build things, aren't you? Construction?
No, I was a house painter, and then I used to sell. Funnily, I used to sell Buddhas. I thought that's pretty ironic.
All right. Okay, that's great. So, just
I sold a lot of Buddhas, a lot of statues of Buddha in my life. Yeah.
There's some irony there, definitely. So, here's a question. Would you describe yourself as being enlightened? What's enlightenment?
If you see the Buddha, kill him. For me, it was, if I see the Buddha, I sell it.
Is it? Yeah. Did they used to show up, though? Did you sell them over the counter, or did you put them in the post?
What?
Did you put them in the post? Were they mailed out Buddhas, or did you sell them door to door?
No, they were big. Oh, I went door to door. Yeah, sure. No.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Like interior decorators and spiritual centers.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
You know how to make a buck. That's really good.
Altars are my old Buddhas.
Right. On every level. That's great. Did you? Yeah, that's fantastic.
I put a little time delay bomb in there. Nice touch. Blow up the Sangha.
Yeah. Do you have the Paul Hedderman collection thing? You could put your signature on it and everything, couldn't you? Yeah. Buddha cologne. That'd be wonderful. Just
like nothing.
Yeah. What? A lot of people who teach non-duality describe themselves as being something called enlightened. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Would you describe yourself as being enlightened, and what does it mean?
No, because to be enlightened, there has to be someone to be enlightened.
Oh.
There's enlightenment coming through, maybe, but it's not from that which it's coming through. Yes, you can. Enlightenment may be enlightening through you, but once there's a claiming it's you, you'll probably lose it, seemingly.
Okay.
I've had this one, someone sent me a big thing about a great master from Tibetan Buddhism, yeah? And in Tibetan Buddhism, non-duality is like called Dokchen, the great perfection. And this guy, in the realms of all those realms, he's authenticated as enlightened. And now as he's reached older age, he's senile. He's in dementia. So a number of his people who thought he was enlightened are very confused because he looks like he's drooling and he's fucking doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Yes?
Yeah.
Something now, senility is coming through the body when enlightenment seemed to come through. There's no one is a home for any fucking thing. Yeah. We're all like mobile, RVs, so to speak. We're not the residents of enlightenment.
Okay. Right. So moving right along, Lebowski has a question, and he asks, if Bill W., I'm taking that to be Bill W., had lived longer, would he have gotten closer to the root of the problem?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. He was trying, he was experimenting with LSD and a lot of other things. Then I think he got into a whole thing about niacin, taking large doses of niacin. Yeah, he was constantly attempting. I think it was part of the seed assignment because he took it to heart that of attempting the people to live free from the daily effects of alcoholism. So, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know where it would have taken him.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I've heard that story several times about the LSD, and I have no opinion on that, whether that's bona fide or not. Somebody can probably enlighten me with that, whether that is actual fact or not. I don't know. So I would say if anyone's in doubt or you haven't heard that, then go and research it yourself and find out yourself and look it up. Don't take our word for that. So Campion R asks that he says he recently reread Bill's story in the Big Book and was struck by how explicitly Christian his conversion is in that narrative. Is your spiritual practice informed by Christian spirituality in any way?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you could say it. I don't know. I don't know why. I like some of the statements attributed to Jesus. I like some of the statements attributed to St. Francis. Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe that would have a role, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I think the spirit moves you and then maybe there's a name given to it. Christian spirit, whatever. Yes?
Okay.
I don't think it comes out of the box branded already. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Marty T is another regular it comes to this, and Marty. He says, you seem to think or believe your higher power is a separate presence from you. How does that fit with your comments on non-duality?
No, I don't feel that way at all.
Okay.
I don't feel that way at all. But when I'm in Rome, I speak as the Romans do.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. I think we all got that.
Yeah. So let's say when we're talking in the non-duality meetings, we speak of an activity called selfing. In recovery meetings, we talk about self. Yeah? Now, do I believe there's a long-lasting independent thing called a self? No. But I use the terminology because the language of recovery. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when in Rome, speak as the Romans do. Maybe you'll get through to some Romans. Who knows?
Okay. Again, from Lebowski asks, are there aspects of AA that actually reinforce the self?
Yeah, us. Yeah, us, yes. Us.
Okay.
The mental state can use anything it comes in contact to reinforce itself. AA, the way of life, is not immune to that. Yeah?
Yep.
There's no thing in spirituality that is immune to that. There's no forbidden zone for the mental state brought to it by us for it to claim. It's a mechanical activity. Yeah. So it's not about, is it doing it? It's doing it, but is it doing it for you? Are you turning into that which it's doing, or are you seeing the manufacturing of that? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge difference. See, either you're seeing the activity of selfing, or you're looking from it, which is calling itself. Yeah. That's what's happening. Yeah. You are not at the, you don't start with thought. You're before it. You're before anything, really, if you want to call it in time. Many of our starting points aren't. We're starting in time after a fact. Some fact has been produced that we're a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, and many of us start our day from that assumed fact. Yeah? There's so much before that disputes that. Not intentionally, just because it's not that. It's not going out of the way to dispute the assumed fact. It's just that. It's a fact before. Yeah? There is a fact of this. And then there's the idea of you. That comes later. Yeah?
Yep.
There's a lot of room to move before. There's very little room to move in it after. It's all you end up doing is self trying to get out of self after. But before you see you're not in self, that's where the freedom lies. Freedom doesn't come after bondage. There's a freedom before bondage and freedom. There's a freedom before that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with it.
That's where we reside, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to put something across, and just so that we include everyone. Could it be that consciousness is just a trick of evolution, and that the lights come on just to give us purpose and meaning, so we go about our lives and we spend? And could all of this just be, that when the plugs go out at the end of life, that's it? Is that kind of what you're saying? Is it nothing? Is there nothing and that's it?
See, but there's so much meaning given to the word nothing from all the something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not getting the nothing. You're getting a chock full of something nothing. Yeah. You don't see all this talking. Everything is coming from us. And if you try to point that out, it's us again. It's not an opinion you take. It's something you recognize. Yeah. As the Course in Miracles would put it, you're not in a dream. You're not in someone else's dream. You're the dreaming. You are this action of dreaming that there's no beginning and no end. Yeah. And in that dreaming, there are appearances. And one of them, there's an appearances of a you. That a you is now been called you. Yeah. Now you're triangulated in this self-centered position, and then there's a coronation, and that you is elevated to a very lofty place called me. Yeah, and then the obsession with that me reinforces the identification of no thing with thing, to the point that thing becomes the dominant, and no thing is called spirituality. It's ass backwards. You're not going to become spiritual as a thing. See, you're not a thing, and that's spirit. Yeah?
Yep. Okay. Next question.
Let's just look at something.
Okay.
Let's look at spirituality as in an economical system. There's a lot of money being made out of spirituality. There's a lot of clothes that are called spiritual clothes. There's a lot of things that you sit on that are called meditation pillows. There's fucking mats. They've got loose-fitting clothing. They've got haircuts. They've got loving gazes. You can actually get blue contacts, like very light blue contacts, and learn how not to blink. All this stuff. There's a lot of money to be had in spirituality. Yeah?
Yep.
There's no money to be made out of spirit. It's a fact. Whoa! Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now, to mimic spirit is beautifully, it's a business opportunity. To mimic spirit is because no one even has an idea what spirit looks like because it doesn't look like anything. So people make up images. Look at what they did in Christianity. They gave you a blue-eyed, super white-skinned Jesus, and he came from the fucking deserts in the Middle East. Yeah, if you have that in your head, you're probably sitting on the subway with Jesus every night, not recognizing him because he looked like a West Coast surfer. So we have, we're a concept that begets concepts. Yes? Mm-hmm. The false evidence for false evidence to appear real, it has to be appearing real to false evidence. We are inherently false evidence. That keeps falling for false evidence because we're of false evidence. Yeah? You and I are not a long-lasting, independent, separate thing. The seeing, you are not the seer of the seeing. You are not the hearer of the hearing. You are not the feeler of the feeling. Even though there's feeling, seeing, and hearing, there's no seer, hearer, or feeler. Yeah? Mm-hmm. There you go. Is that how we live during the day? No. We live during the day that I'm the seer of everything my eyes see. I'm the hearer of fucking everything I've heard. I'm the doer of every fucking action that's happened through me. Yeah?
Yeah.
It doesn't hold any water. And then you want to come to a Zoom and talk about outlandish metaphysical ideas? Just look at the basic operating device that you seem to live in. See what's going on. Does your head assume when you're listening to the story all day of life and you and this or that, isn't there, it's chock full of assumptions. One of them is, the seeing means there's a seer, and I'm just that. I am the seer of the seeing. Is that true?
Well, I perceive that to be.
Is that true?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
No, it isn't. The seeing is first, and then there's a claiming, and then there's an implied seer. Yet, right. So we live ass backwards, yes or no? So in other words, sitting in the trunk thinking we're at the steering wheel, basically.
Yes.
As life drives us, we have a story that we're driving the whole fucking thing. It's not the case.
It's interesting. I think we've spoke about this before. There was the 6 second rule. They did some scientific tests. I think it's in Germany, where they did tests with people. They put them in those long tubes, didn't they? And they were asked to do a test. And the people monitoring the people in the tube knew what their answers were going to be in a certain amount of questions 6 seconds before the people who were actually doing it did. And so that's free will. So there's no free will. Is that what you're saying? Do you agree with that? Is that there's?
Yeah, because if you feel like David and you're an individual, you feel like you have free will. If you try to throw free will out without throwing out David, it doesn't do anything. As Ramana said, you said a friend of yours here is from Ramana. One of Ramana's famous little statements, a little book I got when I was in Tiruvannamalai, a little booklet, which is, they asked them that question. What about predetermination and free will? And Ramana said it very beautifully. If there's a sense of individuality, there'll be a sense of free will.
Okay.
So no one wants to question the individuality, but they want to have long debates about free will.
Okay. Right. Let's move on because we're running out of time. So Jeffrey B. asks, can the notion of alcoholism as a parasite or foreign installment also apply to the unhealthy addiction to thinking that forms the feeling or idea of being in the cocoon of closed-off separate self? Well, I think you've sort of answered that.
Sure. Yes. See, there's not the addiction to thinking is used to imply the thinker. The thinker is the rub. The thinking is like the goose chase. It's like Dracula going on vampire hunts. Yeah, all these vampires, but it hides its real nature by looking for it. So, just as a simple experiment, take a word. Let's say money. Feel what it feels like. Put the word "my" in front of it. Does it change the meaning of money? My.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what's going on unbeknownst to us. There's a whole lot of meaning being given to everything from a source somewhere located where we seem to be without us knowing much about it. Yeah?
Yeah.
You may come to a point where you know it after years and years of intense consequences from the ignorance of it. Yeah? Maybe, just maybe, the light will go on and you'll recognize there's an activity going on, that the thoughts are just thoughts, but held as my thoughts, they're a whole different beast. Yeah? Just like resentment. A resentment is something, maybe you're super pissed off, 15, 20 minutes later it disappears, let's say. My resentment can fucking live for 50 years. Yeah? Because it's being nurtured and fed and life is being breathed into it through the my. Yeah? That's the activity of the bondage of self.
Okay.
It's an activity. You weren't bound to self. You're in the act of believing you are a self. That's the bondage of self. Yeah? When you believe selfing, you think you already are a self. I had a simple demonstration. People hear the message about selfing, and then they get in touch with me, and this is how they describe getting the message. I've been selfing all day. No? Yeah? Or selfing's been driving me crazy. That's not the message. The selfing implies the self, and then they shared as if the self was doing the selfing. That's what I'm calling the bondage of self. Right there, you could just geometrically multiply it, and you'll see in so many examples. Yes? The bondage of self is not that you're going to become a self. You already are a self. Yeah. And the only possibility at that point, when you believe you already are a self, is to get out of self. And that's where the realms of addictions extend. Yeah. Because most people who are addicted to drugs were really addicted to trying to get out of self. Drugs was just the way they did it. Yeah. If they don't do it that way, they do it with money. If they don't do it that way, they do it with sex. If they don't do it that way, they do it with food. It doesn't matter the vehicle. The destination is the determining factor. They want to get out of something they believe they're in. I don't believe we're in it. So why would you want to get out of it?
It's a con.
Well, yes.
Okay.
It spends a lot of time and money yapping to us. Yeah. It's playing to an audience somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your thoughts aren't playing on your forehead out. You're hearing them in your own little porno theater. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you're thinking Debbie's doing Dallas, or Dallas is doing you, or shit like that. Just see. You can just take 10 minutes and see the act of David. Just see it. You don't need to read 800 pages of books. Just a few minutes of armed with an understanding, and then hold that understanding while you're seeing what's going on, and apply the understanding to it and see what shakes out. Yeah?
Okay. All right.
That's what the messages are like. When you hear you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, do you think Huang Po was talking to any person? He was talking through the person to the Buddha. He wasn't trying to convince Steve to stop using the Buddha to seek the Buddha. He was just informing the Buddha that this is what's going on. Yeah? You use yourself to find yourself. It's what it was what, and then things change. When Steve knows what, things don't change much.
We've really got to move on because we've got loads of questions here. But and I'm being greedy, but just when you said the word Buddha, what does that, well, the Buddha or however you want to say it, what does that mean? I don't understand what the Buddha means.
The word Buddha just feels like an expansion. That's all it feels like for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I say the word David G. You know?
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
I say the word Buddha a whole lot more than David G.
Yeah. You're going to need a bigger T-shirt for that one, I'm telling you. Yeah. Fine.
Words to me imply something other than the word. Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, when some of these statements we use at the talks, it's because every time I say them, they're like an echo in the Alps. They produce avalanches. I love it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Incendiary.
Repeat, let's say, a recipe to make gluten-free bread. It may not have the same imagery as you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. If it did, I'd probably be, I'd be a bread maker, really. I'd be sharing about making bread if I felt
Kaiser does it all the time. Yeah. He is the bread maker.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, we've got to move on. Now, I've got a good question here from Jeb. I think he's a free thinker from Aurora. Jeb asks, my 1939 dictionary defines spiritual as non-material. So I take that to mean my attitudes, emotions, ideas, opinions, understandings, and yearnings. They all affect my behaviors, so I need to attend to them. What do you think about that view?
I don't think you need to attend to them that much. Just do the program and something will attend to them. Yeah. I don't think you're necessary.
Okay.
Really. If they're in the program. Yeah.
Fiona has a great question. What's the point of living then? Why are we created as individuals in the first place? Could we not just float around as energy particles?
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. Carl and Elaine asks, can you ask Paul, does he feel the mechanical nature of selfing ever permanently stops?
Probably when you pass away, yeah. When the body ends, sure.
Okay.
So you have moments of dying to the body now, so yeah. And even though they may seem only to be a moment in time, they're a product of eternity, so yeah.
Okay. Right. So I was just going to see, I know we've got...
the pause we speak about in recovery, that pause is not of time. You can feel it. Do you feel like you're rushing to another pause when you're in a pause? No. Time is not a dominant thing in a pause, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So something in a pause can seem eternal, even though in time it was a second. You get an interpretation that it was a second, but you feel like it was eternal. Which one do you want to go with?
Okay.
I'd love to get the taste of eternity instead of the taste of time. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions to go. Like I said, we've had a few people on here who do this thing called non-duality, and they talk about something called self-inquiry. Do you do self-inquiry? And if you do, what's your process? What's your method? Or have you done it?
No, I don't think I ever did it, even when there was doing of it.
As the action figure. So as we're presupposing it's the action figure. So when you were the action figure.
I haven't done it in a long time, no.
Can you tell us what you did?
Possibility in self-inquiry, the way I understood it, so this sense of self asks, who am I, to another sense of self. There's a negation of both those senses of self, and then there's a sense there that's not of self, and you rest there. You don't ask any more questions. Self-inquiry is not supposed to become a practice, a formal thing. It's something that you do, and it has its length or its quickness in time, because once there's a sense of that space, you just rest there. You don't ask who's in this sense of space. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how I understood it anyway, when I was introduced to it.
Okay.
You know, mechanically, yeah? And then you're bringing something back to the source. Now, how far can something be back, far from the source? It may not be far at all. So you're in that sense, and then you're not asking anyone, who is it that's in that sense again? Yeah? And then if the head gets active and your attention seems to get pulled out and gets on that head train, then you ask, well, who's on the head train? Yeah? But a lot of times, you're in the realization you're at the station more than on the trains, yeah? And when you're at the station, I'm not asking anything about the station.
Okay. What about meditation? Is it true that
I'm not a practitioner of anything really now.
So there's no meditation anymore? You don't do meditation at all?
Meditation does me quite a lot. I don't do meditation, no.
Okay. So you just exist?
Well, I wouldn't, just seems to minimize it, but yeah.
Okay.
Existing is just doesn't do it justice, so to speak. No, I do a lot of shit during the day. I take care of the action figure in the morning if I can. I do stretches and I do breathing because the body's old and it's been in a lot of trauma. And then if I don't do it, I miss it, or so I have to do something other than that. It doesn't ruin my day that I didn't do it. I don't rush home and try to get my exercises in. I just dance with what's happening. I got little puppy now.
Yeah.
None of my attention's going where I want it to go. I'm fucking biting me in the heels. Wants to play all the time. So that's what you do. Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I do the Zooms and everything. I show up. And then, they're over and they're over. Yeah. I don't go over a Zoom, a past Zoom. It's not like a NFL football game. I don't watch the tapes of the game. Yeah.
No.
That is what happened. Yeah. He contradicted himself. I hope I have. Yeah. I hope I'm hoping it's working like I know it works. Confusing. I don't understand shit. What he says goes over my head. That's music to my ears. I love it. Because that's the point. You're getting frustrated because you're not getting it. I love that because you don't get it. So let's fucking get it really agitated so that you can finally see through it and stop waiting to get something you can't get because you are it. Yeah?
You 33 years in sobriety. That's pretty good going. So what would you say was the best year of your sobriety and why? As an action figure.
I can't say that.
No?
No. Of course, the first year, because that was where the habits were formed. And to me, if you're in recovery, there's a diagnosis that the problem resides in the mind, yes, in the activity. So you don't want the problem to have a lot to say about the solution, do you? No, probably not. So what is a habit, but an action without thought? So you want to follow the suggestions for a while and do it consistently until they become a habit. So I'm in the habit of being sober now. Where before I was in the habit of being crazy. Now I'm in the habit of being sober. Habit. Yeah. I don't think about going to an AA meeting. I think about which one. Yeah.
Okay.
So the habits are in place, and that occurred in the first year. And of course, the contrast was greatest in the first year, coming out of that one way of life into another way of life. But no, the greatest, because AA is a day at a time and really a moment at a time, this is the greatest moment of my sobriety.
Okay.
Truly, literally, yeah. I don't know. I think if people, believe in spiritual paths and spirituality, there's a built-in spiritual path called getting older, Yeah, in this program.
Yeah.
When you get older, a lot of those fires go out. You're not so fucking fiery and fucking impulsive and shit. You've just learned to let them lay back a little bit because nothing ever really changes. So you're chilled out, and some people could call that spiritual, but I think it's built in the whole this whole little ride we're on. Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you right at the start when we did your intro, which is fascinating. You talked about something called A Course in Miracles. Now, and I'm just going to be the devil's advocate here, but is that not something that was written in the 60s or 70s where they claim to download messages from Jesus Christ? Is that, am I right in saying that? And there was questions about that?
The mind of Christ, not the physical, historical figure of Christ. It was in the 70s, yes. And it happened in the 70s. I don't really know that much about it. I had a very passionate dance with it for a couple of years, and then never to see it again, but always being influenced by it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a, I don't read it every day.
No.
Whatever. Things have happened, and I think the books and the pages are sort of a substitute for certain things that seem to be absent. When those things are present, there's no need for the books and the shit.
So just to be clear, it's not sort of an addendum to Christianity. It's not about the Bible. It's claiming to be the mind of. Can you just give us a rundown of what it is?
It's truly about how you see it, really.
Okay.
Yeah. We're underplaying our role in things. We give everything all the meaning it has, is a statement out of the Course in Miracles. A pretty good, comprehensive statement with two absolutes. You and I give everything all the meaning it has. That means we have a pretty big role here in this event, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, huge role. I would say we're the dreaming of it. So I remember when I was young, I really liked Don Juan. This guy, Carlos Castaneda. I liked to take mescaline and peyote and thinking I was, Don Juan, I was a student, but I was a student of Don Juan, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so this guy, Carlos Castaneda, wrote about it. And he had a lot of books. I read the first 6 or so, and then I moved on. And I got a lot out of it. So did a lot of other people. Then a lot of people spent a lot of time invalidating Carlos Castaneda, and saying he was a fake and stuff like that. But I have a friend that actually was with him for a few years in the Witches, who I believe. But it doesn't matter because it wasn't Carlos Castaneda.
Right.
What was coming through Carlos Castaneda through the book. Yeah, I gave it the meaning it had. Carlos didn't give it the meaning. I did. So someone could use a phone book and use it to wake up with. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we are before everything. Yeah. So someone goes to a teacher that everyone says is great, and you don't like the person. Yeah. It doesn't work for you. Then you go to someone, don't listen to him, and that you feel a resonance. That's how it goes. It's not the person, it's us. Yeah, us. So
Yes.
there were so many things I ran into in this life that triggered something. They didn't become lifelong partners. I danced for a while with the ideas. Some impression was left. Yeah? That reverberated way after I was involved with it. And then I moved, and then I got another invitation, and I went to that invitation. And then I got the invitation to non-duality, and to that point till now, there's been no more invitations. It's been the last answer. It has.
Okay.
And it's taken away any need for any other answer so far for the last 15, 20 years or more. Yeah, I've never had the last invitation. There was always going to be another one. Well, there hasn't been one. Maybe the next last invitation will be dying. Who knows? But in fact, I feel pretty damn confident about the message. I do. Yeah. Sort of like I've run out of the houses. Now I'm just looking for a big field. Yeah. No more houses on the block. Or maybe they'll build one, but I'm open to it, but nothing's happened in years. Yeah, this was seen, it got established, and it just killed me out in so many fucking levels. And things that I thought was so much about me, like spirituality and shit, just dropped like a fucking dead skin off a snake. Yeah, and it really a hallelujah for the snake. It really was. Yeah.
Yeah. Kenji in San Francisco asked, do you still regularly attend AA outside your own meetings? Do you actually go just go to your local meeting?
Not much. I haven't done it with the Zoom. I just did one the other day. I go to ones where they ask me to share, and I really, really enjoyed it. One of the problems I had when I first started going on Zoom is you can mute people. Yeah. A little too much power in the Zoom room. Because someone would start talking about the problem from the problem. I could just mute them. So I missed the live. But the other day when I went, it inspired me maybe to go listen to some more, because I really enjoyed the space and the presence I felt in the room here while I was on it. But yeah, I don't do it as much as I was when it was before the Zoom. No.
Well, that's a good, actually, there's a couple more questions. This has been great. Zoom, that's really good. You've really taken to Zoom, haven't you? Since the lockdown, it's been, would you say that that's enhanced your getting your message out? Has that helped in any way? Are you bothered with it? Is it interesting for you?
It's a moment-to-moment thing. When I'm not on Zoom, I really like it.
Yeah.
No, it's first of all, it's truly not my message. Please, let's keep it.
Okay.
So, and really, the message is that we swallowed another message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that other message is a jealous message. It doesn't want any other message before it. Yeah. So let's be clear about that. And yeah, the Zoom, I have a lot of fondness for some of the people I'm looking at now. And that's been promoted by regularity at Zoom. So I'm happy that, and it's become a repository, the Zen Bitslap, for music and other expressions being posted. And I'm digging it. Yeah,
it's great. You seem to have taken on I found you in YouTube. I mean, that's how I originally found out about Paul Hedderman. And you seem to have, but you've cut through somehow. The message, I guess, you've cut through, because there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about non-duality, and there's a lot. So, congratulations on that, because you somehow it's cut through. Your message. Well, it just seems that there's a lot of stuff must be millions of stuff about non-duality, but the Paul Hedderman message seems to resonate with a lot of people.
Well, because it's not really a message. See, there's a distinction is, when I first went to satsangs, most of the satsangs that I went to, they were trying to describe the indescribable. They were trying to describe the lion to the lion. They weren't emphasizing there was a sheep that was being portrayed that was sort of waylaying the message. And so when I saw that absence of emphasis, that's what motivated a sharing. Yeah. And
Okay.
when it became a clarity, then there was no moving from it ever since. That was the seed assignment, is to put out the identification as what you're not, overriding the message about what you are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another good question here, and I think I've heard you answer this before, but it's
But
worthwhile
also,
mentioning.
I want to say one thing about Zoom. I can come here like 10 seconds before. And I don't even have to, I can just live in my underwear. You only see me from chest up.
Yeah.
You know, I could just, you know.
That's a nice jacket you're wearing, actually. Where'd you get that from? That's really nice.
No flying, and I could just go on like that.
Like a newsreader. Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's a nice jacket you've got there. Things are going all right then, eh?
No, it's my good taste, bro.
Is it?
Yes.
All right. Still waiting on those T-shirts, but thanks very much. It's great.
A lot of people, but I don't like the way they dress.
No, you certainly got sense. Yeah. You're the guy in uniform now, hey? Yeah? Yeah. Hey, I've got another good question here, and I think I wanted to say, for the rest of you, speaking of Don Juan and NM, do you have an opinion about ayahuasca ceremonies while in long-term sobriety?
No, I don't have much opinion, but no. I would have liked to have used, they used the word ceremony. I would have liked to have been able to use that when I was out there using. When I would have got pulled over by the cops, I would have liked to have said, ceremony officer. Yeah, I like that. Would you say that somebody who was in long-term sobriety who did ayahuasca, would they still be sober? Would you count them as being sober? They may be sober, but their community may have different opinions about that.
Okay.
See, the thing is, a lot of us never really think about a larger picture. So I may have a desire. I remember in 2000, I was in Australia, and yes. I was interested in the idea of ayahuasca. And so I went. They had brought some guy from South America at this person's house, and I went, and I listened to the whole take and shit like that. And then I realized it's not my seed assignment, yeah? And the point was, when there's any thoughts about anything like that, the community of recovery is taken into consideration, yeah? What would it do for my being to be of service to others, yeah, if I sort of excommunicated myself from the community, believing in it or not, by doing something? So I think there's a bigger picture at hand a lot, yeah?
Sure.
If you move to it, I'm hoping it works for people, because a lot of people, nothing seems to have worked. Yeah. Yes?
Okay. Yeah. Well, like you said before about Bill W. took LSD. I mean, was he sober?
What?
Was Bill W. sober then? If he took LSD, would you consider him to be sober?
Well, I don't really consider people to be sober or not, in some reason. Yeah. But I haven't thought of it that way. I feel like he was exploring. They were hoping, this is how I heard it about it. Okay. They were hoping it would be like a living fourth step they would do on the trip. So they would be able to excise all that trauma through the LSD. That was one of the hopes they were having. My sponsor in San Francisco, Cy P, he did the experiments in Stanford on LSD.
With Ken Kesey.
What?
With Ken Kesey, who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
AA here in San Francisco area, Cy. He was my sponsor for a while. And he was also into the Course a lot, Course of Miracles. But, I don't know. I don't know what it's like in the person's porno theater. I know that the dimensions of the porno theater, I know how the seats are put together, the size of the screen, but I can't capture the volume or how it's being taken in, yes? Because our belief in something can produce exquisite suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I can't seem to recognize that super clearly. So I have a humility around that. I don't know what it's like in certain people's condition. Yeah.
Okay.
And so if it drives them to Peru and to take ayahuasca, I hope they stay safe, and I hope they don't exile themselves from recovery. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but no, I don't. Yeah, I have opinions on it, but this isn't the place to share them.
Sure.
And the opinions shift, about it.
Yeah. Sure. Well, yeah, we've had this conversation, so thank you very much. So just
People who've done it, and a lot of people I see when I used to go on tours did it. And it's like it's in vogue now. People are hoping, but I'm sure that's what they were doing with the LSD and this, and I'm sure before that there would be something. There's always something we're hoping is going to work when we're not open to working the program, so to speak.
Yep, bingo.
okay. Quick question: do you still surf? What do you do in your spare time? Are you surfing? You fishing? What are you doing?
Boogie board, but I don't do it much. First of all, it's freezing here,
Yeah.
and I don't want to put on a wetsuit anymore. And the surf here is usually when it's good, it's over my pay scale now. But I go down south, and I do it at this beach called Port Hainimi, near Ventura, which is beautiful. So I get the boogie board there. Yeah, I don't need fins. I can push off the bottom. The waves break close, but they're nice and they're gentle. Yeah. So no, the knees and everything are all. Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Final question. This is what we finish with every week, and I just want you to imagine that you've sold enough Buddhas, and you sold a Buddha one day. You won a lot. You got a lottery ticket, and you won $3 billion, and you've decided to buy yourself a huge super yacht. So you get your family, you get all your books, all your favorite possessions, put it on a super yacht, and you start heading. And you head south into the South Pacific. You might go back to Australia, but off the coast of Fiji, you run aground and it starts to sink. The boat is rapidly sinking. All you've got time is to grab a plastic bag and your favorite book off the bookshelf. You chuck the book in the bag, you dive overboard with Amelia and your family, you swim to your desert island, and you wait for a rescue. What's the book, who's it by, and why?
How to Survive in Fiji.
What's your favorite book as an action figure?
Favorite book? Years ago, I liked the, what is it? I think it's called the Rorschach text. Rawshark text. Rorschach text.
Rorschach text, yeah.
That was a great little book. That's a great book.
Is that a novel?
Yeah. It has very good ideas. And I also like the, what is it though? The War at the End of the World by Losa, a South American writer. It's a very, it's a loose narrative about something that happened where a certain cult around a Jesus figure occurred in northern Brazil, and the ranchers, they didn't believe in private property, and they became a big threat. So the ranchers had the Brazilian army try to destroy them, and the cult won like 3 times because a lot of banditos went with the cult. And I like that book quite a lot.
Okay. So the War
at the End of the World or something.
Okay. Do you remember what the author was?
Yeah, Lhasa. Mario Vargas Llosa, I think. L-A-H-O-S-A.
And the first one was the Rorschach text or the Rorschach test?
Rorschach text. It's very cool. Rorschark-text. Rorschach text. I think that's it.
And
Don't hold it. I forget things quickly.
Okay.
So that was
right.
years ago. That has some novel ideas in it. Yeah, very novel. I liked it a lot. And I like, there's so many incredible books, really.
Okay. That's interesting.
I haven't read much for years. I haven't been reading much.
Yeah.
And you're not asking me spiritual books, no.
No, whatever book you want. It's your favorite books. I'm interested. I think, and we always get a lot of people.
I like the ones we put out.
Yeah. You mean Under Arrest by Paul Hedderman, do you? Yeah.
That's a good one for recovery, yes.
Yes, it is.
It's taking this idea and putting it into reviewing the program from that point of view. Yeah, I like it. But
okay. All right. Well, listen, just before we say goodbye, I just wanted to tell you.
Now you have me trying to remember a very good book that I liked. There's so many, really. You can't, I like magic realism. You ever hear? It's a thing that a lot of South American writers use, where they,
No?
oh, there's a great one, The Famishing Road by Ben Okri.
Okay, and what's that about?
It's about a spirit child who picks this couple that live outside a big African city, and the spirit child, without the parents knowing it, is gonna help their lives. Yeah, and in this village, there's a big mamacita who's got a little bit of a demon in her, and so she picks up on the spirit child. Then there's these magical realisms of stuff. It's a great book. It won the Booker Award years ago. And also The God of Lesser Things by The God of Lesser Things is a great book also. But this one is really good. There's 3 of them, but I think it's The Famishing Road. It's a Nigerian writer, Ben Okri, I think. It's an incredible, beautifully written book.
Wow. Who knew? Thanks very much. So you've got a bigger bag. Those are the 3-4 books that you take with you. That's fantastic.
Oh, I wouldn't take them with me. I would only take the Surviving Fiji with me.
The Surviving Fiji. Okay. Well, it's not exactly Fiji. It's an island off Fiji. So just to be clear.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The emphasis is on the surviving. It doesn't matter Fiji or a smaller island.
Yeah, I'm sure they serve kava on that island anyway. So be careful of that. So just to say, next week we've got a priest, a Catholic priest, Stephen Donnelly, who's in recovery, and he's going to be on Here's Tom with the Weather next Friday, and we'll be asking him the same sort of questions. And just wanted to say thank you before we turn off the recording. We're going to stay afterwards. Paul, if you want to hang about and just hang out with us for a bit, that'd be great. But until next week, I'm going to turn off the recording. Thank you very much. See you next Friday.